We have a JD Vance interview on CNN that went hilariously bad for him, especially if you contrast it to Kamala knocking hers out of the park. It's hilarious how unrelatable and unready for the moment that this MAGA clown truly is. So I'm going to play a few of these clips, and as always, I'll provide the context as needed.
You were talking about Donald Trump's social media. Would you describe his posts over the last 48 hours as lifting people up, quoting, reposting QAnon statements, reposting these misogynistic memes about Vice President Harris and Hillary Clinton? That's the kind of open discussion that you think is lifting people up?
Oh, John, I think if you look at Donald Trump's full campaign appearances and, yes, his social media appearances, what you see is two things. A guy with an agenda to lower prices and bring back American prosperity, and a political candidate who isn't stodgy, who likes to have some fun and likes to tell some jokes. I'd much rather have a candidate who's willing to go off script, who's willing to give every interview, and is willing to tell some jokes. I do think that's how you lift people up.
Right, guys. Trump is just doing racism and misogyny because it's totally funny. It's jokes and stuff, right? He goes on rants in all caps and attacks people who disagree with him because it's lighthearted and funny, not because he's angry and acting like a child. And he's talking about Trump discussing policies. He discusses policies where? Trump literally never talks about policies. He talks about the hard-hitting things for the middle-class families, like wind lowering bacon consumption and how he's the greatest speaker of all time and that his friends all think that he's a genius. I'm sure that all of those are just because they're funny jokes too, though. And it's definitely not because he's just a racist, misogynistic, delusional, bumbling old man. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, JD. Thanks for clearing that up.
I think it's such a ridiculous hypothetical because Alabama, which is maybe the most conservative state in the entire union, has actively protected fertility access and fertility treatments. There's no state in the union, whether a right-wing state or a left-wing state, that I think is trying to ban access to fertility treatments. And if Alabama's protecting this stuff, I think it's safe to say the whole country is as well. So,
well, but the court,
look,
but there was a court,
I think that
who's
what
to
Donald
say
Trump
there's not,
again wants to do is protect access.
Who's to say there's not another court in another state that could decide that IVF should be banned? It happened in Alabama for a minute. You also voted against a measure in the Senate that would have guaranteed access to IVF around the country. So it's possible, right?
Well, two things, John. First of all, yes, a court made that decision in Alabama, and like the next second, the Alabama state legislature fixed that problem and ensured women had access to these fertility treatments. And all that I voted on, John, is for religious liberty.
Yeah, guys, I mean, he clearly was just voting for religious liberty. Liberty to impose their beliefs to restrict everyone else's personal liberty, because that's freedom. And it can happen, and it's not a ridiculous hypothetical, specifically because of Republicans like JD Vance, who refuse to vote to protect fertilization treatments for families, allowing states to do exactly what happened in Alabama and what was fought for in Missouri as well, and to try and enact these far right-wing policies to control women and essentially turn them into baby-making factories.
Look, I've said a lot of things on camera. I've said a lot of stupid things on camera. Sometimes when you're in the public eye, you make mistakes. And again, I think the best way to deal with it is to laugh at ourselves, laugh at this stuff, and try to have some fun in politics.
Yeah, guys, he said that Trump is worse than the opioid crisis, or compared him to Hitler, or said that he's a terrible president, or that we should believe his victims because he was being silly and it was just a mistake and he didn't really mean it. And he totally didn't just change face for power and to stay relevant in his own party. I mean, come on, that's relatable, right? That's something that can happen to all of us. We've all accidentally compared our best friends to Hitler, haven't we? I mean, it's silly because he doesn't know where to go with these kinds of claims. He has no energy. He doesn't have the ability to tackle criticisms in a way that doesn't make himself and Trump look worse. And he's not even brave enough or doesn't have the charisma to just do the Trump thing where he just owns it all and is just like, yeah, I'm racist. So what? Yeah, I said that. So what? So instead he has to try to twist his way out of it and try to make everything make sense, which just comes out like this. And I honestly have no idea why Trump chose him as his VP. And I often wonder how much he regrets it since Biden dropped out of the race.